Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
Esto loco.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Blood In, Blood Out, also known as Bound by Honor, which came out in 1993 from director Taylor Hackford. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows three friends living in East Los Angeles in the 70s. We follow Miklo, Cruz, and Paco, who, after a few unfortunate events, end up going their own separate ways, but reconciling later on to face each other over the difficult choices they've made.
As I said, this is from director Taylor Hackford, who you might recognise from films such as An Officer and a Gentleman, which was 1982.
Yeah.
He did The Devil's Advocate.
Oh, wow.
In 1997. It's probably my personal favourite out of his films.
Yeah.
He also directed Ray, which was a pretty successful biopic of the singer.
Yeah.
And with this film here, Blood In, Blood Out, as I said, its name was changed, and the film went into production many years before the LA riots of, was it 1992?
Yeah.
And I didn't realise until after watching this film, and it does help explain why I feel that this film has been softened up,
Yeah.
was that the film was made by Hollywood Pictures, which is a subsidiary company of Walt Disney.
Oh, okay.
So this film is essentially a Disney film,
Right.
which and it was, I think Disney and Hollywood Pictures were like, we cannot call it Blood In, Blood Out. After the LA riots, people are going to see this. It's about gang violence. It's going to upset some people.
Yeah.
It's going to give other people the wrong idea. So let's change it, and they changed it to Bound by Honor,
Yeah.
which does make sense, but at the same time, it kind of split the audience then, because a lot of people were already aware of its old title, and then you have this new title, and it can get confusing, and the film could get lost, and some
Yes.
people remembered the film by different titles. But Blood In, Blood Out is the title that I think best suited the film. It was its original title.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it also gets brought up later on within one of the gang conversations that obviously, if you want to be part of this Latino gang, you have to kill somebody to get in, and if you want to leave at any point, it will be your life.
It's
so
very
that's
much
where,
like that with a lot of gangs.
Blood
The
In,
initiation.
Blood Out. When Gary said that we were asked to review this film, I'd never heard of it. Ever had I ever heard of it. And, you know, I try to watch a lot of gang culture movies because I kind of like that aspect of what goes on in crime. You know, going from films like The Godfather trilogy, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, City of God. You know, they tell this story that, you know, you can't really relate to. You can't really relate to, but when you see it happening, you realize that these things happen, and there's a world that you'll never understand unless you're fully into it. The fact as well that this movie is 3 hours long, I was like, what? What the fuck? Seriously? I mean, I know a few 3-hour movies, and those are fucking epics. And this film did not seem like an epic to me.
It definitely didn't need to be this. It was 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was over bloated. Now, believe it or not, there was a lot of scenes and characters that were removed from the film. And I was just like, you could have kept going. You could have cut it down a lot more, because the first 25 to 30 minutes is essentially setting up our main characters.
Yeah.
And then when something pivotal happens and the characters are all split up, for me, that's when the film really starts.
Yeah.
But once you are, you know, an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours into the film, you're kind of thankful for that first 30 minutes, which helped get the ball rolling and introduce you to all these characters, so that when they go their separate ways and sort of come back around again, you kind of, you know a little bit more about them instead of it being chopped out. So, you know, I can't berate the film's running length, but it did feel over bloated and long. And, you know, I used the word epic. The film is not epic. It's just epically long.
It's just epically long, yeah. I mean, you have Damian Chapa playing Miklo. A lot of you might remember this guy as Ken from Street Fighter 2.
He was one of the worst actors I've ever seen.
Yeah. He definitely raised up in this movie.
Well, I would still say that his acting in this film is corny, it's hammy, it's over the top, but damn, he convinced me when he put on that accent and did the voice. I was just like, that actually felt authentic.
Yeah.
Nothing else about him did. I'm sorry.
You've got Jesse Borrego playing Cruz. I don't recognize him.
I recognize his face, but I can't pick where.
I mean, we checked the list. There was nothing that popped out and said, "Oh yeah, that's what you'll recognize him from." Nothing for me from that. And then you've got Benjamin Bratt playing Paco, who Demolition Man,
Armor hot dogs.
Miss Congeniality. He does a lot of background parts. But this is kind of the first time I've ever seen him as a main character. And I mean, like I said, I did have an issue with the running length, and that was mainly because as soon as the film started, it felt like a TV movie to me.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a Hollywood blockbuster epic film studio movie. It felt like a TV movie. There should have been a breaking point halfway through the movie, and then you come back to it the very next day and carry on. So that first hour and a half, you need to kind of digest that. There's a lot going on in this movie that I really started getting lost with certain characters. When, a character would appear and then we don't see them for a while, but then they come back and they've influenced the things in the background, and we're like, whoa, who's Popeye again? Where's he going? What's he doing? It just, there was a lot. And I felt that as soon as Miklo ended up going to prison, the film should have just focused on him. I did like the stuff going on with Cruz, and I did like the stuff with Paco, but there were many instances where Paco would go off to the military and you don't see him for another half hour. It all follows Miklo while he's in prison. And then Paco comes back, joins the police force. He's having relations with Miklo dealings in prison, and Cruz has gone off. And then he's come back, and I'm like, well, I want to know what they've been up to while they've been gone, because I know what Miklo's been up to this whole time.
I want my VL tattoo.
Hey, take a look in the mirror, güero. Does it snow in L.A.? Does a white boy get a VL placazo?
No.
The basis, though, is Miklo has just moved back to Los Angeles, and he's got a Spanish mother, or a Latino mother, and a white father. And he's having aggressive relations with his dad, so he's left him and moved back with his mum. And he's hooked up with his buddies Cruz and Paco, and he wants to join their gang. And they're like, no, you can't. You're white. It's just not going to happen. And I felt like for Damian Chapa, yes, he's not the world's greatest actor, but he had a lot to work with in this movie.
Definitely.
A lot of emotion to say that he's not one thing and he's not another. He is literally caught in the middle.
For me, his character was the blank slate. He was basically for white folks like us,
Right.
To be able to put ourselves into this world which is untangible to us.
Yeah.
We have no real experience with gang culture, and the violence that these people live in, day to day when they go to war with other gangs, the prison system, the LA riots, we have no connection to it really. It's kind of like it's happened over there, back along. So having this white character essentially is for the rest of us that gateway into this world and to the things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And obviously for that character as well, being white on the outside but feeling brown on the inside.
Yeah.
And his kind of inner turmoil about being able to prove to his family basically that he is one of them, despite the fact that they can't see it.
Yeah.
And it's a big point that comes up at several points in the film, and it does do that very well.
Yeah, he joins up with Paco and Cruz, and you get that little moment where they've just come back. They've dropped off this car to the mechanic shop that Cruz works at, and they see a rival gang spray tagging in their alleyway, And Paco's there, you know, he's the badass. He's trying to goad everybody. He's like, let's do something. We've got to get them. We can't let them do this. We'll be chicken shit. And Miklo, like you said, just wants to prove himself. So he goes out of his way to smash the window of the rival gang's car. Now, from that moment, it would just set off a domino effect of different situations that they get into all the way up to the end of the film. You know, Cruz is an aspiring artist, and his artwork is sought after by everybody, and he gets a scholarship. And so his family are really excited about him because he's going to be the first one of them to go off to college, to be able to, you know, do something well with their life.
See, Cruzito, you are like a lone stallion among mules. You're going to become a legend, like Pancho Villa or Joaquin Murrieta.
Para mi jefito. Salud.
And ultimately, he goes out with his girlfriend to have a quiet makeout session in their car. The rival gang turn up, and it's a soft kind of violent moment in the movie because the gang get hold of him, and you're kind of sat there like, shit, they're gonna rape the girl, they're gonna fucking kill Cruz.
It did make me laugh that obviously she was topless in the car.
Yeah.
Yet when the thugs pull her out, they put her bra back on.
Yeah, well, it's a Disney movie.
Yeah.
It's a Disney movie. You know, we got a booby shot, which was good, you know, and a little bit of sexual reference. But after that, it's when they pick up Cruz, and they've got, you know, you got four guys, one holding each arm and one holding each leg, and they hold him up above a fucking fire hydrant and just drop him on it right into his spine, and you're just like, fuck.
That looked like it hurt, but at the same time, I'm like, this is kind of tame.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that real punch. You know, you kind of get behind him. You're like, you know, he's smooth talking. He's happy-go-lucky. He's creative.
He's the gang leader kind of aspect.
I'm not sure about being the gang leader, but he's just, you know, he feels well-rounded, and you don't really want anything bad to happen to him.
Well, he makes most of the calls. I mean, after Cruz is injured, his other friends obviously wanted to get vengeance.
Yeah.
Straight away, but he says, no, we're going to wait until tomorrow morning. We're going to wait until everybody else is at church, and they're not going to expect it at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they go after this gang. They go after the leader, Spider. And that was actually a little bit more brutal than what we saw with Cruz, because they get hold of Spider. They beat up all of his friends, and then Paco carves their gang tag into Spider's chest and goes to kill him, actually. And Miklo's the one who says, no, you can't. Cruz is still alive. We can't kill this guy because it will just make it worse.
Paco, no! Cruz is alive, I said! Besides, when a dog goes belly up, he's finished. Chale! Yeah.
But Spider is so enraged by what's happened to him, he comes after them with a gun. And it's Miklo who not only saves Paco's life and takes the bullet for him, but he shoots Spider. And then comes along the most craziest car chase. They literally are speeding through the streets trying to get Miklo to a hospital. And the police are chasing them, and there are fucking, you know, slides around corners and high speed chases. And it's really exciting up until the point where Paco ends up crashing the car because he's not paying attention. Two of their buddies end up running off, leaving them, and he's stuck there with Miklo. And they're both arrested.
Vatos locos forever, carnal. Let's go! Come on!
Miklo would end up going off to San Quentin prison at this point, and Paco, who has been saying about how they're trying to force him to join the military, to do something with his life, and he was like, nah, I'm not doing that, I'm not working for no white man getting told off. He actually does sign up to the military. And
well, it was either that or prison for himself.
Yeah, which I thought was really fucking harsh, you know, because Miklo you'd established that Miklo was going to be 18 soon and off of probation, and his life was going to turn around, and boom, he's off to San Quentin. Paco's off to the military. Cruz comes out of hospital around about the same time, and he's obviously in a lot of pain with his back. He's got a few spinal discs that are fractured. But you can tell from the immediate offset of him leaving hospital that he is addicted to painkillers. And it's generally going to get worse. And he's saying to Paco, morphine. Morphine is where it's at. That's the ticket. And you just know. You kind of know from that point where their lives are going to go. Miklo is going to obviously end up going through all the trials of prison. Paco is obviously going to join the military and become kind of a good person, you know? And Cruz is going to start getting addicted to drugs.
Now, for me, this is where the film really kicked up a gear. Because they actually filmed in prison.
Yes.
And a lot of the extras and a lot of the prison guards and the warden were all actual prisoners or officers or the warden in the prison.
Yes.
And so it was like, these are not actors. You can feel it coming off the screen that these are violent people that have committed serious crimes.
Yes.
And now they're acting. And granted, you have that quick snapshot of Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
And you recognize him instantly, even
Yeah.
with a split second of him coming up on the screen, you're like, I know who that face is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't turn up for quite a while later. There's even this face. Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, Billy Bob Thornton.
He plays Lightning. And he's in the film for about 3 minutes. And I'm like, wow. Like, was this before he was famous? I'm like, this is 93.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was big by then. No. And of course, being introduced to the prison, a lot of great prison films do it well, where you establish the size of the prison, the scale of it, the inmates, all of the different groups. In this film, we have the Aryan Vanguard, which is essentially the Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah.
We have the Black Guerrilla Army, which is basically the Black Guerrilla family.
Yeah.
And we have La Onda, which is basically
the
Mexican Mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so being introduced to all of these groups in the prison is always my favourite part. Because it's like, these are all the faces of that group. These are all the faces of that group. And the way that they're always at war with each other, but there's a few kind of connections. And other than the rivalries, there are some friendships in there.
Yeah. Well, they're controlling it pretty much like they're trying to control it out on the streets. They're all dealing with each other. They're all making money.
It's a microcosm of the gang warfare that exists outside of prison.
Yes.
But in the prison, they're kind of forced to deal with each other on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Until it escalates to a point of murder in prison again.
Well, that's what kind of made me laugh was obviously they're all in there and they all hate each other. The blacks hate the whites hate the Mexicans hate the blacks. They all got their own hatred towards each other. They've all got their own little dodgy dealings with each other. And ultimately, the guards and the prison system have them all under control. It's just a powder keg waiting to go off, and all they need is something to set them off.
Ya te dije. Keep your business off this tier.
Simón.
That's it. Tippy don't belong in La Onda. It's low class. We're better than that.
Chale. My business has nothing to do with La Onda.
Madera. You're part of the clica.
Mira, Vato, I was Onda before you were, eh?
Ya se acabó. ¿Entiendes?
Miklo would ultimately join La Onda, and they're reluctant at first because they see the gang insignia that he's got, and they're like, well, how did you get that? You're not Latino, you're not Mexican, and he explains obviously his past heritage to him, and like I said, that's where I found Damian Chapa quite good to watch, because he was battling all these sides. Obviously, the Black Guerrilla Army, they did not want anything to do with him. The Aryan Brotherhood, they wanted him because he was white, but they were going to use him as their bitch. And I mean that in the nicest fucking way about what they were planning on doing to him.
What were they planning, Ian?
Yeah. And then obviously you've got his connections to La Onda, where, he just wants to, he feels more at home with them. But they're looking at him like, you're a white boy.
Well, I think was it Popeye who gives him the tour around the prison?
Yeah,
and then
Popeye was a fucking...
he saves him from the Sheilas. And and then when he gets him into his prison cell, he pulls a knife on him and tries to shank him there and then as well.
Well, no, he tries to rape him,
Right.
Because he's just given him a box full of cigarettes and chocolate to trade.
And that's the payment.
You know, because, oh, well, I'll help you out. You can be my little buddy. And then he tries to rape him in the cell. And it's only when Montana turns up and says, you don't do this on my floor, that Popeye is obviously pulled off. But Popeye hates that because now he's been knocked down a couple of notches. You know, yeah, this white boy's come in and he's taking my spot. And Miklo's like, I didn't want to fucking be here in the first place, but I'm kind of forced to. And so Miklo has to work his way into the Latino gang. And it's Montana who explains to him, look, we keep it all very fair over here, but if you want to be part of this gang, you're going to have to kill to get in, blood out kind of aspect.
The only way into La Onda is to take down one of our enemies. In your case, it would have to be somebody big, someone we can't hit without losing a lot of carnales. Chale.
Give me a chance. Trust me. Just one chance.
And he's set up to kill Big Al. Now, this is what I mean. They could have just focused the whole film on the prison stuff. The prison stuff was just so good. Big Al, he runs the kitchen. And, you know, the interactions he has with the prisoners when he's trying to deal with them pork chops.
He's the biggest racist douchebag in the whole film. But it's very memorable. It's very colourful, his quotes and his mannerisms, and he is such a dickhead.
Yeah.
That you just really want something bad to happen to him.
Ah, now for my brown brothers. Sorry, no tortilla. Wait a minute. There's a ray of sunshine in all that darkness down there. Come up here, sweetness. You keeping all these hungry beaners waiting, baby?
Yeah. And that would escalate. Miklo was obviously working his way in there, you know, and he goes off in the little cupboard, little freezer with Big Al, and he says, I fuck people when I want to fuck them. So he's keeping Big Al at arm's length.
Keeping him excited.
Yeah, and keeping him interested until obviously they give him the weapon to take him out. And it's when he comes across it. I think that's another turning point for Miklo, is when he comes across. I couldn't tell if Big Al was giving the guard a blowjob or the guard was jacking him up. There was something sexual going on between Big Al and this head guard, and Miklo comes in on it. And when the guard is distracted and taken off somewhere, that is when Miklo makes his move and kills Big Al, steals all the money that him and the guard had there, and his little book of information on how much money people owe. So not only has he not completed the task to get into the Latino gang, he's also got money and a book of everybody he can deal with. So he's now established as the points man for games. While this is all going on, obviously we've got to follow the stuff with Paco and Cruz, but Paco has gone off to the military, and you don't see him for a while. Instead, we follow Cruz and his art. But Cruz is obviously very addicted to drugs at this point, trying to get over his back pain, and he's spending his money very quickly on the drugs. And you get that little scene where he's got an art show going on, and people are going around looking at all the pictures, and they're thinking about obviously buying it. But he needs money now. Not only does he owe people money, but he needs money for his drugs. And the woman who's controlling the show, she says to him, you know, here's some money. Think about it. Think about what you're doing while you're going off getting high with your friends. And he comes back to the event fucking wasted and just ends up lying down on the floor while a couple of his buddies who he's painted back in the day.
So you might recognize one of his friends. It's Raymond Cruz. I noticed his face instantly, and I was like, you know, that guy doesn't get enough work. You know, he's had some really bad roles, and he's maybe not the best actor, but when he plays psychopaths and crazy people, he's brilliant.
I always remember him from Training Day. When he's talking about getting your shit pushed back up. And all right, he's not brilliant in Alien Resurrection. But
No, I always liked that part.
Yeah, he's all right in Alien, but I think I mean, I haven't seen it, but I think he does a lot better in Breaking Bad.
He's a standout performance in Breaking Bad. He's an intimidating, scary motherfucker.
Yeah.
And in this film, yeah, he's a full-blown drug addict, and for most of the film, he's just lounging around, just in recovery mode.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that many great scenes, but it does help to have him there. His presence is definitely felt, especially in this sequence where they're both kind of passed out. They've jacked up.
Yes.
And Cruz's cousin.
Cruz's little brother.
And Cruz's little brother, who's kind of always looked up to Cruz, loves the paintings, loves hanging out with him, kind of gets into trouble for hanging out with him too much, kind of comes back down and sees the cigarette burning the sofa, and he's like, oh, I'll try that.
Yeah.
And then he sees the needle. And as soon as you see the needle, you know. And then it cuts to later, when the mother comes back, the boy is laying there with the needle in his arm. It's
harsh.
It's harsh to look at because we know this happens. You know, if it's not needles, it's guns, and if it's not guns, it's alcohol or some other thing.
It's the young person's view of the gang life. We've been following Cruz. I think is it Juan or Juani, the little boy. I think he's actually Paco's brother, and Paco's mum is hooked up with Cruz's dad.
Yeah.
So they're kind of half brothers. And Paco's little brother actually looks up to Cruz a lot more because he respects him, because his actual brother,
even though he's not blood, he is.
His actual older brother keeps pushing him away, forcing him to go off. So he looks up to Cruz. And then when obviously Paco's gone off to the army and Miklo's in prison, Cruz is the only one he's really got to look up to as a role model. But Cruz selfishly, he doesn't think about any of the after effects of his actions. And so when that mum comes in and sees her little boy dead on the floor, you're fucking heartbroken, because you're just like, oh shit,
for him and for her.
Yeah,
in a way.
And he says, Cruz says, what can I do? What can I do? And it's the way that she says, can you bring my little boy back? And you're just like, no.
We gotta get out of here, Crucito. There's nothing left! Please bring my baby back, please. There's nothing we can do! If we don't get out of here, we're fucked! Okay, come on, please!
He's not going to do that. And it's that point as well in the funeral where Cruz is in the background by the tree, and Cruz's dad comes up to him and he's just like, you're dead to me, just like your little brother. And you're like, oh.
Papa. This is a reading from the first letter of Forgive John. Me. Beloved. Perdóname, Papa.
Not now! Not ever! You are dead to me like Juanito.
Oh, that fucking hurts. And it surprised me because when the dad goes back to the funeral, Paco is there dressed all in his uniform with all of his medals and stuff, and he hugs Cruz's dad, where, about half an hour before, Paco had been there saying, Cruz, he's your fucking dad. You do as he tells you. He's not my dad. And now the relationship has changed. While all that's been going on, Miklo's obviously establishing himself in prison, and Montana, the head of the Latino gang, is trying to kind of teach him. Is trying to say to him, look, I haven't seen my daughter since she was a little girl. I've been locked up here my whole entire life. I've missed it all out. You do not want to do this. You are just a rap sheet to those people on the board, including Ving Rhames. Hey, it's Ving Rhames, everybody. You're just a rap sheet. Educate yourself. Do something with your life. Become something. And so Miklo starts to learn while he's in prison, so he can finally get his parole and be free again. And he finally gets it. He meets up with Cruz, and you'd already seen as well that when the film had told us it was 1980, Paco has left the military and become an undercover cop. He's trying to bring the drugs and the gang violence down. And you're like, first off, we're talking about a guy who started off in gang violence and obviously was kind of coerced into joining the military. But we haven't seen any of his training, any of the relationships he's had with any of his squad mates, anything that he's done. And now all of a sudden he's a cop?
Wait a minute. Is his partner Biff Tannen?
Yes, his partner is Biff Tannen. What a butthead. Miklo, like I said, has been released, and he'd set up a deal with Popeye while they were in prison that Popeye owed him money, and Popeye would give up his position on the inner circle of Loanda so that Miklo could take that position and his debt would be wiped clean. And then while Miklo was getting his parole sorted, Popeye's been released, and he's going to get all this stuff sorted out for Miklo. You know, he's going to get him an apartment, he's going to get him a job, it's all going to be good. Well, finally Miklo gets released. He comes to the apartment, and it's just a fucking doss house. Popeye's screwed him over, and Popeye will keep screwing him over all the way to the end of the film. And one of the things that annoyed me was that Popeye didn't get his comeuppance.
Yeah, he gets away with it. You see him sitting there in that squalor, and you find out that he's been taking money off everybody, off everything. And then when you do see him later in the movie, he's driving around in his pimp suit in his car, and I'm just like, you rat bastard. And you're getting away with it.
And you're getting away with it. There's no comeuppance for him for all the shit he does throughout the film. He's the one character I wanted to fucking die. But Popeye ends up making a deal with a guy over an armed robbery. An armored truck robbery. And Miklo forces Popeye out and says, no, I'm going to fucking do it. You know, we're going to do it my way. We're going to make this money. We're going to pay off all of Cruz's debts. And it's mainly because Miklo had been trying to go the straight and narrow, to turn his life around like Montana wanted him to. But he's getting fucked over by everybody. Not just Popeye and the cops, but his own boss at this menial job that he's doing has set Miklo up as stealing money. But Miklo hasn't touched the money. The boss has taken the money out of Miklo's paychecks to pay off his own debts.
150 times 8 is 1,200, right? Right? You use my money to pay back your gambling debts? Huh?
It's a cute story. Tell you what, I'm gonna call the cops. I'll tell them my version, and you can tell them yours, convict.
And so you kind of sat there just like, in a weird way, I can't relate to Miklo, but I can kind of understand why he would go back to crime, because it's the only thing he knows. He was actually better off in prison than he was on the outside, because he's lost all of his family, his friends don't want anything to do with him, and everybody's just fucking him over. So it comes to the armoured truck robbery, and because Popeye had been forced out, he drops information to the cops. The information obviously gets to Paco, and him and Biff Tannen, I'm just going to call him Biff Tannen now, him and Biff Tannen go to deal with this and come across the robbery. People are killed. It's quite menial, actually. It's quite small.
It is quite a small shootout, but then again, that's how I'd imagine it to be. I wasn't expecting heat right now.
Yeah, true.
And so, a few innocent people are shot. They try and escape with the money, and Miklo realizes that it's his friend. You know, he has the up on him, and he could have blasted him and gotten away with the money, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to hand myself in. I'm not giving back the money. I'm going to run. And as he's running, you hear the gunshots go off, and I was like, oh shit, he killed him.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Stop, police! Fuck you, detective! Stop, rescue!
But he didn't. He shot him in the leg. And subsequently, Miklo has had to have his leg amputated, and then he's sent back to prison.
Yeah.
Which is where the rest of the film takes place.
Yeah. From this point, I was actually quite shocked at a few points in this ending sequence, because Miklo's come back to prison, and there's a lot of the drugs have now made it into the prison. A lot of the members of Law Under are drug addicts, and they're just wanting to make more money, to make more drugs, to stay high. And Montana's the only one who's actually saying no. You know, they're wanting us to do this so that we kill ourselves, so that, you know, the Aryan Brotherhood takes over, or the BGE take over. You know, there is nothing in it for us. They're using us. And so Miklo understands that, but at the same time, he also understands that the only way that they can save themselves is by taking out everybody else. And it's fucking crazy how it just jumps from situation to situation.
You've got that moment it's pretty brutal, where the leader of Laonda is been transferred to another prison so that he can tell all of the others that between the Black Guerrilla family and Laonda, basically, we're going to have a peace.
Yeah.
We know that we're being set up to war with each other by the Aryan Brotherhood, so we're going to have a peace. So he's transferred to this other prison, and he's also got a meeting with his daughter, same day.
First time he's seen her in a long time.
And, he's put in this cell, and we've got a black man in the other cell, and they're talking. He passes him some cigarettes, and then, he's combing his hair in the mirror, and then betrayal.
Yeah.
He's shanked multiple times, left handcuffed to die on the side. And this is where, all the Jenga blocks start to fall out.
Yeah.
Because this causes a chain reaction of killings and murders that would, sweep across the prison system at this point.
Well, it's pretty amazing because, I mean, the leaders of Laonda wanted to get revenge, and they subsequently take out the heads of both the Aryan Brotherhood and the BGE. And I'm just like, wow, you guys fucked up when you killed Montana, that these guys would then come and get vengeance. And you had those brilliant moments between Paco and Miklo, because obviously Paco's a cop, and he knows Miklo, he knows about the violence that's going on outside. So if he can try and get Miklo to convince the rest of Laonda to cut it back a bit, maybe it will die down. But Miklo's just like, where the fuck are you? While I've been in here fucking having to keep myself alive every day, where have you been? Living a life of luxury. And I don't actually think Miklo knows about Paco's brother's death. Or the stuff that, I think he knows that Cruz was a drug addict, but he doesn't really know how bad it really, really was. He's so blinded by the power trip, I suppose,
in a way.
The escalated climb up the ladder, because it's Montana who leaves him in charge as Montana goes off. And it's so shocking. I was majorly shocked. This goes up there with Tony Montana in Scarface killing his best friend, or Michael Corleone killing Fredo in Godfather 2, where you saw the black prisoner shank Montana. He gets a comb. It was part of Bonafide's trademark. Bonafide was the head of the BGE, and he had this little magical comb that supposedly gave him lots of protection. And this black prisoner who's just killed Montana, he's got a comb like it. And it's got Montana's name on it, and obviously what time he's going to be at this cell. And so you're like, shit, the BGE set Montana up. They had it all in place. No, it was Miklo.
Both loved him, but we did what we had to do for Onda. You were right.
He had obviously been talking to a couple of other inner circle members of Laonda, and realized that the only way that they could keep the peace or take control or do whatever was to get rid of Montana. And it fucking hurt. It really fucking hurt.
So not only did he betray his confidant and his friend in prison, he also betrays the Black Guerrilla family.
Yeah.
Because they all get assassinated as well. Just one by one, you watch all of these people fall. And it's just like, wow, there's now nobody left in power in the prison system but Laonda.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the prison system then decides it's going to take these 4 perpetrators and send them all to different prisons. And Miklo's just like, that's great, that's my plan. Each one of you goes to each one of these prisons and you become top dog of that prison and Londa forever, you know?
Yeah, here's some money, get an army, but get some soldiers. I want you to establish yourself and we're gonna be the big dogs.
And the annoying thing is, that's it. That's it for that story.
Yeah. Because after that, Paco meets up with Cruz. Cruz is looking a lot better, you know, got himself off the drugs. Paco's, you know, doing well as a cop. And they have this little talk in the storm drain in LA. And you see this beautiful mural on the wall of the picture of the three of them from when they're younger. But you get this whole moral tale going on, you know. It's nice because it's slightly nice because Paco realizes that without Miklo killing Spider, setting off these chain of events to protect Paco, in a weird way, it's kind of Paco's fault. But it's Cruz who turns to him and says, we don't blame you for this. You blame yourself and you need to let go of that.
I set Miklo up. I made him go after Spider. I mean, I started the whole fucking thing.
Relax, ese.
Your back wouldn't be all fucked up. Miklo wouldn't be in prison. He'd still have his leg.
Hey, I forgive you, ese.
I don't want your forgiveness, man.
That's your fucking problem, ese. You can't forgive yourself.
And Paco's like, okay, I will. And that's it. That's it. And it just comes up and it's like the end. And I'm like,
it was the fact that the end came up on the screen that annoyed me.
Yeah.
Like that was there's the most annoying the end I think I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, no, there's still bits that you haven't.
Imagine if Menace to Society ended with the end. You know, it's like, no, it doesn't because...
But wait, if you carry on past the credits, Ian,
yeah,
it actually comes up with a text message and it says that the violence that this film depicts in the American prison system is now under control.
Really?
And with that blatant lie at the end of the film, I'm just sat there like...
And that's what I mean. That's why, the end coming up cemented this as a TV movie for me.
Yeah.
You know, because...
Well, this felt like it was like a 3-hour pilot for the TV series. But instead of that, it was like the entire TV series compacted into 3 hours.
You could easily remake this into a TV series and follow all three of them in different seasons. You know, the story of Cruz, the story of Paco, the story of Miklo, all the different establishments. You're going to fucking get like 12 seasons out of this over the turmoil and stuff that they went through. But it just... There were holes in it. And I wanted to know what Paco had gone through when he was in the army. What war was he in? Who was his squad mates? Did he meet any of them after? How did that help him become a police officer? You know, does he suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder? Or is he able to keep that edge and just become a badass? Same with Cruz. How many of his friends died of drug overdoses? You know, of the money that he owed, the things he had to steal to get it. I know everything about Miklo. Everything. I don't think I could take any more after everything I saw of Miklo. It was brilliant. But the other two just wasn't enough.
No, which is why all of my favourite scenes are all the prison drama scenes.
Yeah.
You know, the introduction to the prison, the canteen sequence, the conversations, you know, in their bunk rooms, just the back and forth, the dialogue, the interplay.
Yeah.
You know, Danny Trejo is always great.
Yeah.
Seeing Billy Bob Thornton in the prison was great. There's even this bold white guy who you'll recognise. I think every prison has one of these.
Yeah.
I recognise him mainly from Fortress.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, all the prison stuff I thought was great. Obviously, the real prison, real prisoners. It brought that authenticity to these sequences. And
yeah.
I think that probably elevated Damian Chapa's performance in the film.
Yeah. I've got a few favourite sequences. I really liked the the scene where the cop turned up at the beginning and was questioning them about the license of the car, and how the bumper was so low. I think it's the first time I've ever watched a gang movie where the cops aren't complete douchebags.
Right, yeah.
They're actually, this cop at the beginning was actually nice and was talking to him, even though Paco was quite negative towards him because of the attitude he has towards cop. This cop didn't decide to beat them down and pull them in and establish themselves as the hated white man kind of aspect.
He kind of had some respect for him because he was a 2-time boxing champion.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, I probably don't really want to, beat down on these guys.
That's it. But at the same time, I suppose that would also pave the way for Paco to become a cop, to learn the respect of the badge because, of what they have to go through on a day-to-day basis. Cruz getting fucked up by the gang, as short as it is, that hydrant sequence was harsh. Just the imagery of him coming down onto it, and then obviously the after effect of the pain he must be going through. Montana telling Miklo about the laws of the prison system, the relationships between the different gangs, the deals that they've got going on, and the fact that he knows that they're all just being played off against each other by the prison system, who want them all to kill off, because I think he says it's like 30,000 a year for each prisoner that they have in there. So as long as they keep the prisons filled up, they'll just keep getting loads and loads of money. And I'm like, there's a lot of intelligence behind the situations that they're in, the gangs, the prisons, the drugs. It's not just kind of there. It's explained to you how it kind of works. And at the end, the conversations between Miklo and Paco, they were so close at the beginning, and Paco was the badass, the gang leader, and Miklo was looking up to him. And then the roles are reversed towards the end. I mean, Paco doesn't really look up to Miklo, but in a weird way he has to, because he's the head of this gang now. If Paco even wants to get near him, he has to go through like 20,000 soldiers first before he gets to Miklo.
Paco! I'll always be your brother, Vato Loco.
Never.
I find it. I'm going to find it fairly difficult actually to recommend this film.
Yeah.
Because throughout the film's running time, I was kind of getting a bit agitated, just kind of like, I've still got all this time left that I have to spend with this film. Whereas I know I've seen better. I've seen better prison dramas. I've seen better stories. I've seen better films. But I do remember this film. As I was watching it, my brain was just like, you've seen this before. You've seen this before. And I had done. I'd seen it late on TV.
Yeah.
And it was on. And, it was like, I didn't have a chance to bung a VHS tape in and hit record whilst the film was playing. And so it was a film that I'd seen once and kind of vaguely forgotten about.
Yeah.
But it always piqued my interest in the prison system and prison drama. And subsequently, I've gone and watched many prison films and... like the Oz TV series for me is, if you are interested in this film, I would suggest go and watch the Oz TV series, because that is that prison system extended over several seasons, where you do get introduced to all of those, groups that are in the prison and the wars that they go through, the gang warfare. This film, I think, it doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as City of God or Menace to Society. Those films are truly authentic. This is, I could only imagine that the script and the people that were involved in wanting to make this film, I would hope that they are coming from the real background of the characters that they wanted to portray in this film. And I get the feeling that Disney or Hollywood Pictures kind of glammed it up, took away some of that hard edgeness, soften the film up so that it feels timid in most of its sequences. Granted, there's lots of shanking and blood and violence, but even that doesn't feel as impactful as those other films that I've mentioned. This feels like a Hollywood film, even though it's not really.
Yeah.
But it is, because it's a subsidiary of Disney, so it feels toned down. And it's also 3 hours fucking long. Yeah. The acting is all over the place. You've got some amazing actors, you know. Ving Rhames is good in the film. He's in it for 3 minutes. You know, Billy Bob Thornton, I'd watch him, and I'd watch stuff just because he's in it. But in this film, he's in it for 3 minutes. You know, Danny Trejo is Machete. You know, he's great in what he's in. He's in this film for 4 minutes. You know, it's a 3-hour film. And so some of the best actors in it are not in it for that much time. Yeah. So like I said, the acting is all over the place, but the film is still interesting, and it does hook you in to want to see it through to its end, but only when the film ends do you go, but that's not even an ending. It's kind of like they just went, shit, how long is this film end?
Fucking stop it now. Stop it.
So it left me not wanting more, but at the same time it didn't give me enough.
I do recommend this film, but I only recommend it to people who, like I said, I see it as a TV movie. If you enjoy, you know, watching those kind of documentary-esque movies on like TCM and fucking True Movies 1 and 2 on Sky and things, you know that channel that I'm talking about. This movie fits right well into it. I cannot honestly see anybody back in 93 going, hey, let's go watch Blood In, Blood Out for 3 hours in the cinema. You know, you would have ended up walking out at some point, unless you were really invested into it and you could really relate to it and it spoke to you. This is the type of film that I think that if you're wanting to watch it, if you like gang movies, there are better ones. Just like Gary said, you know, the Godfather trilogy beats this hands down. Boys in the Hood, Men's Society beats it hands down. City of God. You know, there are so many better movies, but this one's not bad. It's just long, you know. An hour and a half. You do the first hour and a half up until, I'd say, either Miklo comes out of prison or Paco's just shot him in the leg and he's going back to prison. And then stop there, go off, do something, digest what you've seen. You know, think about the sequences that you've seen in this and the story build up, and then come back again and watch the last hour and a half, and you'll probably enjoy it more. I was exactly the same. When I sat down, I'm watching it and I'm just like, oh wow, you know, this is quite a big event. I wonder how long I've got. I've still got an hour and a half to go. Holy fucking shit. You know, I would pause it, go off, make a cup of tea, have a cigarette, have a sandwich, come back and get my notepad and go, okay, let's go. And still, I'd be sat there like, who's he again? Oh yeah, that's so-and-so from that sequence back then.
That's one thing that I do like, is the fact that there are multiple characters, and then, you know, granted they're not all given screen time, but it really does world build.
Yeah,
you know, you believe
it does.
that there are all these families and they're all interconnected in different and interesting ways. And so even though they're not fleshed out or explained, having them in there makes it feel more real.
Yeah. The music I felt was a bit off.
No, that's it. It's Bill Conti.
Yeah.
You know, he did Karate Kid and Rocky.
Yeah, you're not hitting any major
Really?
things with that.
The
the music in those films are great, but in this, it just felt like there was music in situations where I felt like there shouldn't have been, and it was kind of tacked on to go, hey, don't forget they're Latino, so we've got to have a kind of Latino-esque music in the background. I'm like, no, you don't. Let them just talk. You know, it wasn't like the music's playing out the radio or some bands in the background. It was just kind of there to emphasize, oh, don't forget they're kind of Latino Spanish. And I'm like, I don't need to know that. I can see that. I don't need the music constantly in the background to play it out. And that, like I said, once again, gave me that TV movie aspect. It's not a soundtrack, I would say, that you'd really want to listen to. It's just in there in the background. And on top of that, like I said, there are just some holes with some of the characters that I wish had been fleshed out a bit more, but then we'd have probably been pushing about 5 hours with it. If you'd done that, brilliant. Break it into a serial. You know, remake this into a TV series. It would work really, really well. 3 different characters, 3 different views on life, 3 different major events going on. You could easily get 6 or 7 seasons of a TV series out of it.
Now you home with us and defend the barrio. Patos Locos forever. Forever.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Cause we're from East Los, we come out chased by hounds. Huh?